I'm Madison Gray, and this is the Wholehearted Podcast.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Wholehearted Podcast. Today is going to be a more casual episode. There's just something that I want to talk about. We're at my parents' house. My kids are swimming in the pool. My parents and my husband are with them. But I just recently hit a milestone in my business that's been a goal of mine for a really long time. And it's made me reflect on like how much I've changed over the last few years and just a lot of different things. And so I want to talk today about slow living and meaningful work. And I just really hope that this episode helps clear some maybe misconceptions about slow living, because I hear a lot that like, oh, slow living, like I couldn't do that because I want to have friends. I want to socialize. Or like, well, I have a business idea, so like slow living isn't right for me. Yeah, slow living is not about just staying in bed all day. It's about preserving your potency. Typically, I have tons of notes ready for these episodes, but it was just on my car ride here to my parents' house that I just got out my phone and started taking notes on my phone app, which I almost never do. But it's like this creative, just all these different things that I wanted to share today for the podcast came to mind. And I want to talk about how to start a business without hustling, because, oh my gosh, there's so many layers to this, but I'll just have to share my own experience. I think for me, growing up, I was a competitive athlete, and I really thought that the only way to achieve my goals was to push myself and go through the pain cave, figure out what my goals were, and just stay laser focused on those until I achieve them. And then when I achieved those, I would like level up and push myself to the next one, right? And it was all about like hustling and grinding and just getting resilient to the pain, really. But at a certain point, I felt really burned out living that way. And I've shared about this before, but I ended up, I don't know if dropping out of college is the right word, because I consciously decided, like I wasn't failing college, but I just decided that college wasn't the right fit for me and started working at Target, came back home. And it was a low point in my life for sure, because it was like the first time I ever didn't look like an overachiever. And I feel like since that point, there's been like, God's been using that almost like, letting go of what I look like to everyone else to cause me to like flourish and grow. For me, this whole slow living thing and simplifying really started when I had my daughter at age 24, gave birth to my daughter in the hospital. And I can remember having nurses and like right at my side, like God bless them. I actually feel like I had really wonderful nurses that day, but it's just like the way we even treat childbirth. And I don't know if this is true in other countries, but in America, like the nurses were like screaming in my ear, like, push, you can do it. They completely meant well by it. But then I gave birth to my son 3 years later at home. And I promise this all ties together. But I was reflecting on this today because I realized like what an incredible transformation that was for me as a woman to give birth to my son at home and not push it. Like I did not have to do anything. I remember when I was pregnant reading, it was just like a quote about how a woman's body, even in a coma, would deliver a baby physiologically. Like that's how incredible a woman's body is made to do childbirth. And so I didn't take any childbirth classes. This is not me saying like, please find the support you need. Listen to your intuition, like take all the childbirth classes. But for some reason I was just like, I don't need it. Like I just really trust that God made my body to do this. And it was wild. Like I had this transformational experience where I didn't even push, like my body just gave birth to this baby and I surrendered to the process. And that, I believe, is the difference between a woman's feminine energy, a feminine power. Like, we are more than just fertile ground for babies, you guys. And we do not have to hustle and grind like men. It's like whatever God has put in you, if you slow down enough, and I could talk about this too, but I'll circle back, to just allow that thing that wants to come through you to just come through you. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel draining. You don't feel exhausted. Like, I had it so backwards in treating myself like a man in so many different ways. And so I just want, maybe this won't resonate with anyone. I'm very curious to know how you guys feel about this, because I know a lot of my listeners are stay-at-home moms with creative ideas. And they don't necessarily have to be businesses. But let's just say you do have a business idea and you're not taking action on it because you think it's going to drain you or it's going to be too much. I want to encourage you that I don't think you can't not do your most important work as a woman, but you can be too distracted or too busy for it. Like, you don't have to try to come up with your vision for your life. I promise it's in there. I promise your most important work is in there. What you need to do is eliminate the distractions and all the things that are keeping you too busy for it. And I heard this quote from John Mark Comer one time that was like, if the devil can't make us bad, he'll make us busy. That's a deep cut for me as a woman, because women are the ones that change the world. Like, there has been so much incredible advancement for women in our modern age. I am not kidding when I say, like, right now is my favorite time to be alive. Like, I'm not one of those people that feels nostalgic for the past or wishes I could wake up and like live in a different generation. I'm not. I am so happy to be alive in today's modern age, because we can do both. Like, we can stand on the shoulders of the giants who have made a way for us to have the freedom that we have, but then also glean on the wisdom of the past and of ancient traditions, and realize, like, okay, there's, in some ways, we need to protect and preserve what's truly human and what's important for humanity, and not just get shot down the river of chaos as a modern mom, as a modern woman. For me, there's been so much power in slowing down and just letting it happen. When there's silence, like, that's when and the interesting thing is, like, I hear a lot of people say, like, well, the introvert extrovert conversation, right? Like, where do you get recharged? And you know you better than me, but I'm an extrovert and I still require silence. It's like maybe our modern world is just so noisy that we all need it. But the more comfortable I've gotten with being alone and being in silence, that is when I can feel the thing. It's like, oh, that's the thing I have to do. And there is such a misconception about motherhood and running a business. There's this whole mom boss culture, hustle mom culture. I think it's keeping a lot of women from actually letting their creativity breathe and changing the world with their gifts. Because motherhood is not meant to be a place where we lay down our dreams, just self-sacrifice to the point where we're not using our gifts or our skills. I think motherhood is meant to, this is just my belief, but in the same way that, like, I believe Jesus paid fully, I'm set free. I believe we're no longer under the curse of, like, childbirth being painful. I also believe that for motherhood. I think that God really meant it when he said that children are a gift. And maybe what it is that we're, like, too afraid to surrender and go with the flow of what wants to come out of us. Like, that's too scary, and we're so stuck in our masculine energy, wanting to control everything and force everything and have everything look a certain way, to actually confront ourselves. But I want to encourage you that, like, if you feel overwhelmed and this feels like a lot, and you're like, I don't know how I could possibly ever, do this dream that I have in my heart, or start this business, or just take the next right step, whatever that is. Because I'm also raising kids and I also have 15 other different things. Then I so believe in slowing down and simplifying. So what I was going to talk about before was environment. So if a flower isn't blooming, you don't look at the flower and say, what's wrong with you? You look at the soil and you say, okay, obviously the conditions, this environment for this flower wasn't right. So let's change some things. Let's get this soil cleaned up. Let's figure out if that was like too much sun or not enough sun. And let's make the environment right for this flower so that it can just do what it does, which is bloom. If it doesn't bloom, it's my fault, right? Like, it's not the flower's fault. I need to reassess the environment that I've put this flower in. There's been all these different studies on water molecules and like what happens to a water molecule when they're in like a toxic, argumentative, just stressful environment versus water when you're saying positive affirmations or it's in a loving environment. The actual structure of water molecules change in environments where the vibe is different. This is why I get so passionate about my course. I think people often overlook things that are like too simple, too common sense. Simplifying your environment, cleaning up your environment, bringing down the stress level. There's studies now, I've talked about this so many times, that show that women our stress, our hormones, our cortisol is affected by too much visual clutter. If we can just make our environment right, we shouldn't have to try so hard. I think often we're trying to do so many things at once. This is something I love about women. Women, I feel like, are always on a personal inner work journey. Like, we are always trying to improve ourselves. They're always on they're listening to some podcast, or they're like reading some book, or they're trying some new diet. And we're always trying to like improve our lives. But often I think we just overcomplicate it. And it's like, gosh, if we could just quiet down our lives and simplify our environments, that is when I think our feminine energy can just thrive and flow. And we can surrender. And it can be really beautiful, but we think we need to like do so much, become a whole different person before we can take the leap into some idea we have or some dream. That is not true. You are already the person and you have everything inside you that you need to make every one of your dreams happen. It's such a different way to look at life and look at work, and it's so deeply satisfying. You have to not underestimate the power that when you do take action on that thing, how it's going to bless other people. Because I think so often we get stuck in like, well, all the different reasons why there's no validity to like the idea that we have. But we're really underestimating like who else that might help and who else that might involve. So yes, I believe that slowing down and simplifying, embracing that feminine energy is the absolute secret sauce in becoming your dream woman, in living your dream life. It's not in the hustling and grinding and making everything look Pinterest perfect. It's been a huge thing. I want you to know, like, it's been really difficult for me to lay down my like identity that I had of myself before I had this business, because I was really proud of myself for just being a stay-at-home mom. I ended up doing this Bible study with my friend Christy Faye, who I really want to have on the podcast sometime. So hopefully we can find a time to do that. But she has this Bible study called I Have To, and it's about just figuring out what God is calling you to in your life right now. Almost like didn't pay attention through half of it, which sounds so bad. But it was like, I mean, I wasn't like not paying attention to the Bible study. It was just like, I wasn't really listening to God, because I was like, I already know what I have to do, God. I've known since I was 14, and that is to be a stay-at-home mom. So like, there's no room in my life for anything else. And I could remember watching myself from like a third person perspective, completing the sentence at the end of her Bible study that was, I have to. And it was like, start a YouTube channel. And I like put my pen down and I was like, what? Then everyone went around in a circle and shared their I have tos, and it was like really cool and empowering and beautiful. And I was so scared to share that my I have to was start a YouTube channel. And one of my good friends, Lexi, was there and she kept asking me about it. Like in the weeks past, she's like, so what's going on with your YouTube channel? And I had done nothing. Like I had taken no action. I was like, Lexi, and I was doing some wedding photography at the time just for like some extra money. I was also making dog teepees on the internet and selling jewelry on Etsy. Just trying to scrap together anything for like some extra money while being a stay-at-home mom. I went into this whole self-sabotage thing for quite a while, thinking I have too much on my plate right now, and who knows if I'll even make money at that. Like I just started getting like overthinking it. And she was just like, I don't think God would have like said it to you if it wasn't something that was going to be good for you. I think it was the next week I went to Trader Joe's and filmed a Trader Joe's haul. I can't remember if that was my first video that I uploaded, but I know I filmed it. It was probably so cringy. I should upload some of my really old videos just so you can see. I feel like that's encouraging to see like where people start. Because man, the hardest part of doing anything is just starting. I thought I really enjoyed photography, but when I started filming for YouTube, I realized like, oh my gosh, this is different. This is a thing that feels actually effortless to me. That like I feel satisfied by and filled by, because it's the thing that like aligns all my gifts together and it's what I'm meant to do. And I don't have to try so hard. I just have to do it. I just have to show up. And it's so incredible to see other women's lives being blessed and families being changed and marriages being changed. Occasionally I'll have someone like come up to me and tell me they watch my videos. If you ever see me anywhere and you watch my videos, please come say hi to me. I absolutely love that. It's happened to me a few times now. And I feel like people are always very nervous because I'm usually with my kids or something and they probably just don't want to be weird. But I would love to meet you. And I love hearing your stories and about how you're simplifying. And people always tell me things they've gotten rid of or like different activities they've quit. And I love that. Someone recently came up to me and told me that they found my YouTube channel like a year ago and have experienced just incredible self-growth. That they, in the process, have pulled their kids out of school and started homeschooling. Just that like in so many ways their lives have changed for the better. And she was just listing off all these different things that and I don't think it's me, I think it's something about this idea of tapping back into your slow and peaceful and simple feminine energy. It's just like, yeah, you can't help but have what's meant to come out of you come out of you. But I think we've just been told for so long that like, well, if you want something in life, you got to work for it. But it's wrong. You do not have to be a slave to hustle culture or busyness to live a meaningful life, or to make an impact on your children, or to make an impact with a business idea or a ministry. Maybe it can feel good. Maybe it can be good for you and good for others. I don't know if I ever will on my YouTube channel, but on my podcast it just feels different. This feels more like I'm hanging out with my girlfriends for like a girls' night and we're just talking about deep topics. Oh my gosh, I just remembered at the beginning of the year, I just asked on my Instagram if like some of you'd be willing to share your goals with me or business ideas or whatever. And I actually cried reading the responses. Like the incredible ideas that you guys have. Like if you could let those flow, how much the world would be changed. Something else I'd love to talk about in the future, so let me know what you think about this, is finances. Financial freedom is something I'm very passionate about. I feel like not enough women talk about it. It's that same hustle and grind culture. The point I want to make is that if you have this notion that like God doesn't want to bless you, God doesn't want for you to have money. I also had that block for a long time, but thinking that like it wasn't Christian for me to be paid for my work, like to get compensated fairly, that I should always give of myself. And that was such a lie. I think it's been so inspiring for me to put myself around women who have created businesses out of their feminine energy. And so I hope that by talking about this, it's like allowing us to hang out together and talk about this and just fill your mind with new ideas that it might be possible, and it might be different than what you think. It might be very different than what, all the men you've seen start businesses, or maybe even all the other attempts you've had. Maybe you've been preparing, and like this whole slowing down and simplifying thing has been preparing you to become that good soil, that fertile ground for ideas to just take root and bloom effortlessly. Anyways, thanks for hanging out and listening to this podcast. If you're enjoying it, I would so appreciate you leaving a review. All of you that leave me 5-star reviews, I see you. You're the ones. No, I'm just kidding. I love all of you. But thank you for supporting my podcast. The reviews do really help. I don't really understand how it works, but apparently the reviews, oh, there's my dog. Okay. The reviews really help, and I appreciate the support. It helps this podcast reach people that need to hear it. So thank you, and I will see you in my next episode.